welcome to the new vlog of Science in Your and Mind Perspective. My name is Avnish Kumar, and in today's lecture, we will be attempting to understand the notion of time and its physicality associated with space. We will try to draw our understanding for notion of time from our last lectures we had in this series. The notion of time in itself is very confusing. To lay the foundations for understanding time, we will have to go back in the concepts of the amalgamation of space and time. It is very hard to understand space as an independent entity when it is dissociated from space. Enormous work has been done in this horizon, which states that space and time is coupled. The basic definition of space is that anything which has any dimensions will constitute an space, which essentially means space is not inherent, it is an attribute shown by some entity. The entity in itself can be physical or metaphysical. For example, a human body has well defined three axes x, y, and z, which means it constitutes a three-dimensional space. If you can think of anything which has other dimensions and they are orthogonal or not orthogonal to each other, they will form a certain type of space. So, from this small discussion, we can understand space is a property which is being reflected or showed by a entity. Now, this term, a definition we just understand is contradictory. Like, it is like saying that something is happening when something is occurring. Like, when matter is occurring, it is occurring as an inside a space. So matter in itself encompasses a space. So can we understand when there is a space, then there is a matter. When there is a matter, then there is a space. Won't it be right saying that matter itself is a state and state itself is a matter? So, in this physical world, anything which is occurring is you can call it as a space or as a matter. On the broader perspective, it does not matter. Now, coming to the time. For a time being, let's take time is an another dimension which is orthogonal to these three dimensions of space, that is x, y and z. And other dimension, let's call it as t, the dimension of time. It is orthogonal to these three mentioned dimensions, which means we have something which is four-dimensional in nature, which is called space-time. It is an one term. Space and time is a one term, and scientists also call it as Minkowski space or Minkowski space-time. Since centuries, time has been very fascinating for us. Humans have always dreamed to foresee the future or go back in past. But essentially, time is not like that. There is no future, no past. Whatever it is present. Whatever it is occurring. Let's draw an analogy. Let's draw a line of thought. For a time being, let's understand. Let's assume that if there is no matter, will time will exist if there is an independent existence of time? In reality, who records time? Let's first understand how we feel time. As a human being, our space, which we call a body, grows, and we understand this growth is related to time. The physical growth of this body is related to time. If your body is not growing, what I mean by growth is that you started as a kid, reaches to your adulthood, then a mature stage, then old age, then the story finishes. Then you have traveled, this physical body has traveled from a little chunk of mass to another chunk of mass. And this travel is perceived as time. So, isn't it saying that this body records time? If you don't have any body, you will not record any time. For a moment, let's understand this pen we are seeing. If you throw this pen on this ground, if nothing will happen, this pen will be always there. Does it is recording time? Some people say that if there is no radioactive decay of the elements inside it, the pen will be as it is, as it was when it was thrown. Does it record time? It has not recorded time. So there are some atoms in this universe which record times, and there are some entities in this universe which do not record time. when anything here, anything in this physical world has a lifetime. Even electron has a lifetime. Is in a lifetime. After that, it converts itself into something else. So from this thing, this discussion, what I can understand is that some bodies records time, some body do not records time. It also draw a line of thought that if something is existing or not existing, that something I am saying is time. If time is existing, then atom is recording, then something is recording. If it is not existing, then something cannot record it. So it also states that if some atom is recording and some atom is not recording, which essentially means that the time was existing, some atoms were not capable enough to record it, whereas some atoms were capable enough to record that sense of dimension. So it implies somewhere that time is existing. It is always there when space is there. When you don't have any space, you won't have time. Let's understand this thing as follows. Let's move from 4 dimensions of this physical universe to the other higher dimensions. Means there are n dimensions above the 4 dimensions. If I say that space and time are the attributes of something which get exposed when something is being observed. Let's understand that something is as universe. So what essentially I want to say is that universe as an entity has these attributes of space and time. Inside universe we have planets, we have life of different forms, and this attributes is being perceived by those forms of life. Let's put this thing in simpler words. Take a crude example of a human body. Let's say there is a man called anything ABC. Now this man ABC or woman ABC is being continuously observed. In order to understand the nature of that being ABC and another entity that is XYZ is putting a set of operators on ABC. For XYZ, ABC is a totally alien body. Now XYZ will try to understand ABC's attributes, the attributes which is hold by XYZ. We as a human body know so many emotions like laugh, so happiness, sadness, anger, compassion, love, excitations. These are different sorts of emotion and you can tell in others. If I say something bad to you, you may become sad or angry at me. So this is the attribute you showed to me. If I say something humorous to you, you may laugh. So this is the attribute shown by you when you was pushed or when you was put under some constraint. Like if I crack a joke, you may laugh. If I say something personal to you, you may become angry at me. So I do something and you respond in something. So this space and time, these are the observations we observed when this universe is operated. Have you ever think why only space record times? Does time also record space? What I essentially means, if you are if you are on x-axis and you keep moving on x-axis, then you are covering distance on x-axis. Like you just started your journey after, if I say after 5 minutes, you will be covering some distance. After 10 minutes, you will be covering some distance. So you will have a specific position on x-axis with some time. For an observer, how he will know or she will know that you are moving or not. If you are at point A at t is equal to 5 seconds and after t equal to 10 seconds, the observer finds you again at point A, then he may understand or then he will deduce or she will deduce, then either you have not moved from that point or you go back and forth and come at that point after observation. So this is how you understand space. Let's jump from the axis of distance to the axis of time. And my observer is in some other axis that I don't know what it is. Either it is, I don't know, let's say some other axis which is not space, not time. Or we have three dimensions of space like x, y, and z. Let's make another dimension of time. One which is not parallel, which is orthogonal to that direction of time. Either you can be at let's take like x, y, z are three perpendicular dimensions which are mutually orthogonal to each other. Let's take present, past, and future as three orthogonal directions. And you can at a time can be at you now you go in that three dimension of present, past, and future. Let's denote your location on this point, some space in this time and some point in this time frame. Let's draw the analogy like time. So if I am somewhere, either can I be on present, can I be on the axis of future, can I be on the axis of past, how you will understand on which axis I am of time? There are the two possibilities. First, I am inside that arrangement of time or I am outside that arrangement of time. If I am inside that arrangement of time, I will understand that I will observe your relative position. If I am the axis of future and you are on the axis of future, we are on the same axis. If you are in the axis of present and I am in the axis of past, then I can say we are on different axes. And this conclusion, this thought of understanding will not help you that much to understand time. Now, take you outside of this framework. Now you are outside this framework of time, the three dimension of time, that is present, past, and future. Now your position is observed by someone which is outside this framework will see a little portion of future, a little portion of present, a little portion of past. It is similar to x, y, z coordinate. Similarly, it is similar to present, future, and past. So you always live in present, you always live in past, you always live in future. As such, there is no discrete present, there is no discrete past, as well as there is no discrete future. You travel through all of them. My second, the tick of clock, it just happened. Then it is past. And the next thing which is going to happen is future. And this happening is, this ticking is happening in some time, we called it present. So if you have that understanding of time, then there is no present. Either it is future or it is past. Likewise, I am talking since last 10-15 minutes, so that is past. Now I will talk for 10-15 minutes, that will be future. So what I am understanding, present is as a point which has two boundaries. One boundary is in past, other boundary is in future, which we will never touch. You can never live the future, neither you can live the past. So this definition of time is saying that present, past, and future, they are not discrete, they are not independent, they are mutually interrelated, like x, y, and z. In x, y, and z axes, you can have any one of them 0. Like if I own x axis, my x and y and z are 0. If I own z axis, my x and y are 0. Similarly, on the axis of time, if I am on present, then my future and past is 0. If I am on future axis, then my present and present and past is 0. What do you mean by my present and past is 0? Means there is no present, there is no future, there is no past. I am living in future. The dimension of time is future. Does it possible in this physical world that you can be always in future? And if you are in future, how will you know that you are in future? You are in x-axis. If you are in x-axis, you will only know that you are in x-axis when you know that y and z are 0. If I am not supplying you this additional information that your y and z is 0, only then you can say you are on x-axis. Otherwise, you will never be in the position of saying that I am on the x-axis. Similarly, is the same goes with time. If I am not supplying you the information on future or past coordinates, what is future and what is past coordinate, you will never be able to understand whether you are in present or in past or in future. So either you are in future. If I am not giving you the dimensions or the magnitudes of present and past, you will never be able to understand that you are in future. So I can say you are living in future. So now there comes a very beautiful thing. What essentially you mean by future? What essentially you mean by future? Future is the evolution of time. How you will go in present is your future. So we have always a perception that present, past and future, they are on only one dimension, on one direction, on one line, where you can move back and forth. If you are moving forth, you are in future. If you are moving back, you are in past. And if you are standing somewhere, not moving here and there, we call this present. Does that happen? Do you think does that happen? That you neither you move backward nor forward, you stays in time. If you are staying in time, if your time is not changing, then how can you say that time is growing? Neither you are moving back or neither you are moving forth. What kind of evolution is this? If I am still on x-axis, neither I am going backward nor I am going forward. How my x is growing? How my x-axis is growing? No, it is not growing. So, what it mean? If I am in present, I am not able to go in future, neither I am going to past. And we say that the time is growing for us. How it is growing for us? And which dimension of time is growing? The past, the present, or the future? Don't you think there is something wrong with the definition of understanding time? The wrong thing is that we understand present, past, and future on the same axis. If you break that analogy of time frame and understand them as present, past and future as in 3-axis system which are mutually orthogonal, and your position is defined as you move in this framework. Let's say if I move little bit up, my little bit of there is a little bit of past come, there is little bit of present has come, and little bit of future has come. So you are moving in time. If you are moving in time, then understanding of all these 3 axes on the same line is totally wrong. So now we have understand that the axes of time, if they exist, We will see whether we are seeing this future, past or present, if they are existing or not. We will see. Now we have drawn the analogy because we can understand the thing which we have seen. We have seen the space. We are trying to understand what is time. So we will trying to portray time as an space. And we know that time grows from our experience in this physical space. So we are taking the time, dissociating time into three dimensions, which is present, past and future, which are mutually orthogonal. What I mean by mutually orthogonal is that if you is at present, you can only be at present. You cannot be on the other past or future. If you are at future, you can be only at future, neither present nor past. The probability of finding you at future being in present is 0. So, your experience, whatever this body has experienced, is only the present. It has never seen the past. It has never seen the future. For sure, we have never seen the future, but we are little bit kind of understandable for our past. Like we can look back in past, like I have talked for 10-15 minutes and I know I am talking since last 10-15 minutes, so I have a notion or understanding that I am talking from a while, and then a while called past. Now I have something in which I am growing. And that growth is being monitored by how much past you have. If you have 2 quanta of past, 3 quanta of past, 4 quanta of past, means your time has grown. You covered some dimension, distance in time, some magnitude in time. If you have this definition of that x, y, z, they exist, x, y, z accesses of time, they exist on one line, which we have seen a little ago is wrong. It's not correct. It is not totally understandable. So, the notion of time can be understood as a other dimension of this space, which has a quality that being in space, you can only perceive or feel a dimension, at a single dimension of time. That is why we call space, in this space, time is constant. If what you mean by saying x is constant, x is constant means the other two dimensions y and z are 0. That's why x is constant. Means I cannot dwell in the other dimensions of this Cartesian plane y and z. That's why we call x is constant. So similarly, the time is constant in this physical space, means we are only at the one axis of time. The other two axes are constant, are zero. That's why this axis is constant. If this something is constant, which essentially means it is not growing with time. So my time axis is not growing. The growth of time is understood as future. So, how to access that two dimensions of time which are mutually perpendicular to each other or mutually orthogonal to each other in a better terms? We will have to move our sense perception from this physical time, from this physical space, from that single line of present, and push ourselves into further space. Like if you are on x-axis, then you have y and z as 0. So if you move little bit up, you will have a value of y. If this your system has the z value, then you will also gain some value in z. So you move from your axis, you jump from your axis to perceive the other dimensions of that space, that is y or z. The same thing is happening with us in this physical world. We are limited to one dimension of time, and we are not able to access those other 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, dimensions of time. If we somehow push ourselves from this dimension, only single dimension of time, then we will have a notion or understanding of other two dimensions, that is present or past. Then you will have little bit of understanding of present, past and future. So for the time being, a common man has only one dimension, one coordinate of time, that is TP, that is T present, and 0, 0. If you push yourself a little bit, you will have TP present, T past, and T future. And you can see, you can feel, you can perceive all three dimensions like you perceive in space. So from that we can draw this notion of time. The time is embedded in this space, or this space is embedded in time, or we can say they are mutually embedded. The time has also accesses that's like space, or we can say this physical world has n dimensions. In those n dimensions, only 4 dimensions are perceivable for human being, that is 3 dimension of this space x, y, z, and 1 dimension of time. The rest of 2 dimensions of time, or the growing or the higher dimension of this space, is not perceivable. If the matter present in this space-time elevate or gather some sense perception or push himself a little bit further into this space-time where it can access those dimensions, other dimension of time, then everything become perceivable. So this is the physical notion of time. The perception of present and past along with future, the perception of present, past and future all together is the physicality of time. But in this three dimensions, we are only able to understand, only able to perceive one dimension of time, and other two dimension of time is constant. That's why the third dimension seems to be constant, and we don't know how we are growing. If we don't have this physical body, we won't be able to record time, because this physical body has a natural clock. So due to this natural clock, we record time. So this is the attribute of space, that it is growing. The growth be understood as time. We put that growth as a time. Else if you don't put that growth as a time, you will never able to understand that there is something called time. So one will better understand what is time once the person will be able to perceive all dimensions of time. So how to perceive those other dimensions of time by limiting ourselves to this physical space, we will see in the next lecture. So far, we will conclude with this line of thought that the dimensions of space is limited or not accessible or not being accessed or explored by this physical body due to some limitations, due to we don't know how to perceive to feel the other dimensions of time. We know the way to feel other 2 or 3 dimensions of space, x, y, z. Like when the life was forming on this planet, like the ancient primitive man does not know how to fly. Once we have aeroplane and other things, we started flying in the sky, we starting gaining altitude, we are accessing the dimensions of space, the height, we are moving left and right, diagonally, vertically, we are accessing x and y direction. With the technological advances, we learn to access the z direction, which was perceivable to us. While in time, the dimension which is perceivable to us is past only, not future. So if we somehow mechanize ourselves to push ourselves into this physical framework of time, from one axis to the middle of somewhere in this framework of time, then we will have an understanding of present, past and future. Thank you very much.